At the heart of it, it is just a big, crazy fart joke.
William Jackson Harper almost gave up. After graduating from the College of Santa Fe, he headed back to his hometown of Dallas, Texas, and formulated a master plan. He wanted to be an actor, and even though he didn't have the funds he wanted, the funds he was told he needed to head to New York and pursue his dream of acting, he did it. And he made it. His Broadway debut finally came in 2014 in All the Way, where he portrayed James Harrison and Stokely Carmichael alongside decorated actors like Bryan Cranston. It was a dream come true, but it was still a financial struggle, and he almost left it all behind. He took one last run at a pilot season in Los Angeles, thinking this would be it, and he'd give it all up. But quitting just wasn't in the cards. In 2016, he was cast in NBC comedy The Good Place, and after a very successful run, his hard work culminated in his first Primetime Emmy nomination, We Chat. I first saw you on Broadway in 2014 with All the Way, phenomenal show. Tell me about your journey from Santa Fe, New Mexico to New York and Broadway.
Yeah, when I was 24, I just sort of had like a, I had like, I think I had like maybe $1,800 or something like that. And I was like, you know what? If I don't go to New York now, I'm just not going to do it. I mean, they'd always said to us, like, you need to have like at least $5,000 to $10,000. I'm like, I'm not getting that. A little chunk that I had saved, and went up there and just pounded the pavement for years, just years and years and years before I got my first paid like off-Broadway job.
And when did you find out that you got in the role in All the Way?
So I auditioned for it, and it was great. It was like, actually, I was on tape. I just read with the casting director, and I got it, and I wound up going to Boston for, a couple of, maybe a month and a half, 2 months, something like that. And we found out there that we were going to Broadway. And I was really drawn to the script just because I'm a real junkie for that time, and I really liked all of the infighting and just sort of the multifaceted ways you can look at the passage of this great piece of legislation. And so I was really just intrigued by it. And also I was intrigued by the prospect of playing Stokely Carmichael, who's like a great personal hero of mine. So I was just super excited to do it. And then we found out that we were going to Broadway, like after the run in Boston and the success of that show there.
Broadway is certainly a height for a lot of actors, but not for you. 2 years after your Broadway debut, you landed the role as Chidi in NBC's The Good Place. But I read that before you got that role, you had considered quitting acting altogether. What happened?
For me, it had been up to that point mostly stage stuff. There had been a couple of things, a couple of on-camera things, but it was just a really it was a very unreliable existence, and I also kind of felt like I was always, like that steady New York guy that will, fill out the cast beneath the stars that everyone actually went to see, but it never really built on anything, it never really built in a way that felt satisfactory to me. And I was just I was getting tired, and I was broke a lot, and I was just I was done with it. Usually when I had that conversation with myself, it felt like I was losing something if I thought I wasn't going to be an actor anymore. And around, when I sort of hit that 35, 36, it didn't feel like a loss to not be an actor. It felt like, well, I've done it. I've given it a shot. I've had some successes. I don't feel bad about my career. It's not what I want it to be. And I don't see how it will be. And so I was like, I'm okay with walking away. And it actually felt like a relief.
But then you get the phone call.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Get
Well,
the phone call.
yeah, there was no desperation. Like I need to get a job. You know, I spent all this money to come out here and rent a car and hang out for a couple of months, and like that desperation was gone. It was more like I like coming out to LA and hanging out for a little bit. I have a lot of old friends out here, um, and I'm just enjoying, just dipping my toe in with these several different characters that I'm going in on, these auditions for. And so I was just a little more present and a little more relaxed because I was just enjoying being there rather than, that deep thirst that I had for the longest time to get that job. Where it was just like me, please like me, give me the job. It just wasn't that. And then I got the call, and I was just more relaxed than I had ever been going into those rooms because I just sort of, you know, uh, just sort of let go of those expectations.
The premise of the show is, well, spectacular. But you didn't know what the premise was until after you landed the role. It feels almost kismet in a way for people who aren't watching The Good Place. You should definitely binge it right now, but it essentially is about what happens after you die. And although it's a comedy, it feels kind of ethereal, I think, to your story in particular.
Well, I will say I like the sides that we got, or the audition material that we got was my character was a guy who was working for the Innocence Project, and he meets this woman at this conference, and they hit it off, and then at some point midway through this 3-day conference, she's like, I'm actually not supposed to be here. I don't work with any of these people at all. And he's like, oh no, which that is sort of like an analog to Chidi. But I will say, after I got the job, they were like, great read, so you should come in and we're going to talk about the show because everything you read has nothing to do with the show that we're doing at all. And I was like, all right, cool. And I went in and they explained it to me, and I saw how it linked up with the character, like the character that I played in the audition, how it linked up with the character in the show. But I was also just like, oh, I hope that my choices still work. I hope that my take on the character still, lands in a way that you all found effective in the room. I hope it seems effective when we're actually doing the show. So I was nervous, but then, after reading that first script and seeing how crazy it gets so early, and, it just felt like, all bets were off. And, for it being as ethereal and spiritual, I guess, as it is, at the heart of it, it is just a big, crazy fart joke. And we, and I got to play in that. And that I can always connect to.
And now you're up for your first Primetime Emmy Award. Congratulations. What do you think you did this season to get that nomination?
I feel like a lot of these things, it's really tough to, and this is going to sound real pretentious, but I'm going to say it. It's tough to judge art and like to say, this is good, this is bad, these are the things that are the best, these are the things that aren't worth mentioning. It's so subjective all the time anyway. I feel like if there is a cause to our show getting the recognition it is this year, it's because it's going away. I think maybe because it's also, I think the times we're living in now are a little bit frightening, and I think the show is comforting and optimistic while still having bite.
Immediately following your wrapping of The Good Place, you started working with Barry Jenkins, Oscar award-winning filmmaker Barry Jenkins, for the Railroad Underground series. What was it about that series that compelled you?
I was a big fan of the book, and I was just excited. I mean, I was excited when I heard that it was being made into a limited series. But then also, I wanted to work with someone who I knew was smarter than me. Like 100%, just I just know for a fact that dude's vision and that dude's outlook on creating art is something that I have not thought about, and something that I really can't fathom unless he sort of walks me through it and explains it to me. And so I was like, this is an opportunity to learn and get better. I think the material is something that dialogues with the world that we live in now in a way that's like the parallels are very easy to draw. And I was it's just like everything about that project excited me. I knew it was going to be a real challenge, and I was going to have to do some work.
You're an NBA fan, specifically the Dallas Mavericks. And I know that you've been watching the new NBA season right now. Do you think that the NBA bubble method can apply to Hollywood? Because you guys aren't finished with the Underground series. You too had to stop because of the global pandemic.
Yeah, I really do hope that we find a way to, restart and finish this, because I really think that this piece is something that people should see. I think it'll start some really interesting conversations um, and and inspire some really interesting questions. Um, but safety first.
Yeah.
If we can find a way to do this where people are tested often, like literally every single day, and those results come back quickly, and so people know that everyone here is safe. You can be close to this person, you can do the scene the way you would do it without having this thing in the back of your head saying like, oh, if I get too close, I might, accidentally sneeze or cough or something and get this person sick. Like to not have that ballast on your brain and on your and on that like sort of artistic atmosphere would be, that's necessary. And I think that the NBA is, they've got it right. And I don't see how we can do something like this without everyone just sort of quarantining together and being in a bubble. Shooting a series takes a long time, and that's a long time for people to be away from their families and their significant others. And I think that with the NBA, it's a finite amount of time. They know that it's a few weeks or a few months and it's over. But shooting a series can take anywhere from like 2 to 10 months, and that's a big ask for people, and especially to be quarantined for that long. So I just don't see how you can go back into production without that.
While we can't have live theater for some time, you're giving us theater in a different way. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's this play called Animals. It's like a partnership with Williamstown Theater Festival and Audible, and it's a really interesting play. We're doing everything remotely. Everyone's all over the place. There's people in Europe, people in New York. There's a couple people here. It's nuts. So I will say though that you do miss the energy of being in the room in real time with someone live, and actually just being able to feel their energy. There's always a delay on Zoom. It's always like a little bit of a freeze, but I think it's really important to, I feel that it's really important to find a way for theater to exist in some way while all of this is going on. Because everything is just dialogue driven and it's character driven primarily. And that's it's a great way for actors to work out, and it's also a really interesting way to hear a story, to see a story, when it's just sort of unfolding in real time, rather than with just images that move the story along. It's really just the people that are moving that story, and it's those actors in the room with you that are taking you on this journey. It's not really about a bunch of other stuff that the actors aren't involved in, like directly. So yeah, it's strange, but I think we'll get a handle on it. We'll get a handle on it.
Thank you for watching another act. Up next, Robin Thede.